Doc, what's a come high?
I'm a talk, yeah.
What am I be able to
I'm Yado.
Mo.
Did it say?
Talk about Nyamiadom. Nyamiadom. Yes, so Yahoye pa. Obanikase, what aroma? What share and tokwa ekoso Israel, Gaza, Israel, Hezbollah, Israel, Iran, America, then Huajin, Russia, bomb pempen, North Korea, one chen. Security implication ben a wohoma Africa. Ban bambo wa. How kete ben and a wohoma yenya ye wo ebibiremu. Wabra sisi ameno kase Africa president then say UN Security Council no kayade ne be kan so yenya nkoka ho. Wadaroma.
Oh, I'm saying, question no episode who here, and particularly
Sunday.
Well, yeah, ye fit Ghana, ye peacekeeping. Ye nuanom, and memane, my papanum, ne mamenum, Lebanon. Oh, near Bema, say, and pain pino, na, yam pen no cracker, papa. And now, I say, Missia, kiki, na ye regina baby, yendi, say, Anna, ye bayano. Since Israel and Hamas way and Kwesi I'm the first and I can't be the international order. Aye, na ya be as I secretary assembled by UN and the BCC and Nomiade. That international order no. And yet, you may be. They see our free so one who didn't to me yet to put some yen ya pay. I could hear our bit media who never Nipano. Might is now right. Ain't Gaza say me see where Nagana, your regional chain. Oh, Israel has a right to protect itself. But once a web we were not akase obi wo tumi say o tumi ye nia ope na mom na tiaso no nipa na nte enti sesia no o fre Ghana Africa generally em say niema be say na bi wo ho a me be say be boso ententem ya one. As a Ghana and Africa, you share your seat as some sui. So, Obakaya, say, COVID the buyer, Russia Ukraine war, a buy P, their farm, hold their cancer, no creno, and they declare COVID is still a quite best and fear me and sending a buy. Oh, na COVID into me, they say, oh, Russia Ukraine war. In the economy, I say, what? Me know when was the last time you ate wheat?
Sunday.
Come be pan like Captain Smart, okay. So when you were for and me, I feed.
Menkai,
and ask the Modi be cuckoo and ask the banco.
Menkai cra.
And we are looking for flimsy excuses to justify our inability to deliver public goods. The economic side is one. The second, the geopolitical shifts and the need for Ghana, Africa to be tactful in the way they do this things. It sounds say, Obibedi yesobefa yesika, esesa yedin diniyame sombeto yeso by force. The Emperor Captain Smart in class 1. On cabo for it, a wabong. Emri be a criminal. Criminal near Kawunda Mandela. They decided to look. It sounds say, Yen Suyakwasa, a Brenum no. They best support the Palestinians over time, consistently, for self-determination. Actually, UN and the global community as a whole, they accepted what is called a two-state solution. Israel has a right to exist, but the Palestinians also have a right to a state. Nina Yabwegu, since last year, October, Hamas for call. Israel, Ekochini, back in 2005. They have retaliated with almost 20 times the number of deaths that occurred on October 7th. We now know undermine Israel's Africa strategy. They've been trying to come back to the continent through diplomacy, through trade, military aid, of which Ghana is a recipient, and of course, selected, specific, targeted, strategic assistance. I want to say, in all this, there's an aggressive Israeli diplomacy getting Africa to support them irrespective of our own national interest. In the African Union, based in Addis Ababa, for example, is unable to be consistent in taking a position as our leading multilateral agency. Earlier on, in the 60s and 70s, now Israel was almost about 33 embassies. Right now it has only 13 diplomatic missions, 3 economic representations, and 1 military attaché. And whatever is happening right now has multiple implications as the continent's leaders, because Obekaya, particularly South Africa, has led the charge in taking Israel to the International Criminal Court. Made a powerful case, of course. The Israelis have fought back seriously. But at least, EU for Nipa Edano, I am clear. Say from where the EU sits, Israel's behavior, quote, is the most flagrant violation of human rights. And I think we are all seeing it on our television screens. The coming years will be difficult for us because Africa's position is going to shift because there are certain racial undertones in terms of what we are seeing and how Israel is behaving. And particularly for our troops in southern Lebanon, whose lives are in danger, Ghana is in a very dicey position and must be tactful and guided by informed, mature decision making. The second is a powerful country like South Africa that says, look, we want to insist on the right of the Palestinians for self-determination. And based on our own racist experience of the apartheid regime, we think there is a basis to go to the International Criminal Court. And I think on several occasions, among 4P, they used the word genocide in terms of what is happening. Comoros, for example, has used that word. Out of the 53 or 54 EU countries, 38 have argued strongly, calling for a ceasefire and a negotiated solution. So, Mr. Sia, and there may know what I say there. Israel's ambitions for economic and diplomatic strategies towards this continent are on the back foot. Even countries that support them consistently, like Ghana, if you look at our voting record in the Security Council, in the General Assembly, the Human Rights Council, you can see that Africa's vote is split right down the middle because different states are interpreting what is happening, not through a single African lens, but unfortunately, as always for this continent, we are split in our little blocks and we are interpreting what is happening through our narrow national interest. That does not help the Palestinians and does not help bring an international order that is guided by accepted principles and norms that the United Nations upholds. That will make the international system very unstable, very dangerous, and will create trouble for all of us in the coming years.
Doc, me da sipa ne Sanchez Chimina. What share a queen baby and then I'm queen na kenim say Russia Ukraine war and che nankaja etwetwa say nobody can tell in interviews kakra me no why over the years na mama beti say a kon be shasia you can't tell when it is beginning and when it's actually going to end even when negotiations begin krana one sha won't me hu da ebe ende now World Bank I want a country sir ye talk woyere say yanya careful ekon we no ebetimi ama oil price no na watwe we ye dim no ebetimi akodu $150 per barrel what they eno eto nchen a o ma sa ka kire biom se ebetimi a trigger global economic shock what the can boso say ye sika samo nye ebibrem titru ye mem ha Ghana den ebetimi de egu akwan mu a ye betimi nya cushions bi a ebetimi aboa yen se kwen kwa ni mu che na de how kase ba wiase a
Ofa, se medin the crepa achrawa. As a small state, that's what we need to from in the last couple of years. Our foreign policy has been very wishy-washy, not driven by focused principles about what our Pan-Africanist stance ought to be, within which we locate Ghana's national interest.
Is it because na foreign policy won sheda here bread and butter issues anti and say leadership approach no and enya strong enough?
I think it's the leadership approach. Foreign and defense policies are driven by bread and butter issues. Well, nipa ode ontuma bebone diano oni ne din komo ananche ohiamwa obeboa o asembi kire wadwene so a oni ne bedin komo as foreign policy leads to access to international funds, investments, and then having access to the international financial markets. But it is also about baby a way a mouthful be putting tunum pesomo behaye mehiambwa training doctrine to be able to respond. Well, those two things, foreign and defense policy, are driven by our calculus around bread and butter issues and who we can trust to be with us. It is not, so the negotiations ought to have led us by now more than 13 months after these problems began towards a certain win-win negotiated position. But Obia Yanadrin said, Media, nya, we are seeing now Kassayen no mean ye. In fact, Nipanokra who ye may. Enti me say o mano na nasase e wo hokra fe ma fa na mesidan e wo so na me kro wa akotena ho. Well, the negotiated solution that we are talking about is not going to fly because the Americans and the Western powers have not been fair and transparent in insisting on the application of international norms. And therein lies what the World Bank and the IMF are saying. Say, emra assesse ye na ye diso enye adwuma. Na omo de sa emra ne bae no from 1945 after the Second World War. Omo fi so yenkura ye ni emra no so a. Na over time nipa bi o mai bi feel say there will be new alliance formation. And that is what we are seeing. The BRICS countries, Russia, China, South Africa, the Brazilians, and we are seeing even newer constellations. Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran. Apart from the oil prices, which is a natural consequence of the uncertainties that different countries feel. There's also going to be a dangerous and a deadly arms race. We are seeing leakages of arms from the Russia-Ukraine war seeping into North Africa. But nobody is talking about it because we are the people dying and probably we are not that important. Into the oil price shocks, probably it might hit over 150. That will have an implication for the global economy because the supply chains will be threatened. We need to pay more insurance. Goods and services becomes more expensive. And then there will be a new set of economic realignments in which a country like Ghana, either through a weakened ECOWAS that hardly knows where it should put its head, or through the African Union, should begin to reflect. The oil price about the cost. Captain, who said, almost the cocoa price no akosoro say, but thanks to Galamsey, and check in about a year and a half, 2 years, cocoa no pro amount on top because the mercury would have gone into it. It's wrong. And we need a bipartisan, strategic thinking group of all kinds of people, not too big, to ask me the questions you are asking me. Because they see our campaign trail is what they are 2 million. These essential questions are what are doing, and the area meetings that be clear is what you know. None of our leaders, political leaders, are thinking about it. Thinking so, me are 2 million. We are now my baby bisa. How do I deal with the oil price, global shocks, arms race, and then all the other questions? By that time, no, Minyabema, then the horse has bolted already from the stables.
Me are very much concerned about foreign policy. Between on my way and Amaya Hoduina, if you say foreign policy, yeah. It affected big time through trade partnerships. It affects your financial markets, your diplomatic efforts, and everything. It's to diversify energy sources. Say a foreign policy in your papa. Looking at America trying to take over Africa, Britain or Tetenkwanche, Russia is coming in, China, almost East Africa, as our baby. Now, our boss will say, yeah, foreign policy no and shed die. I wishy-washy bisano. Going forward, then to make our foreign policy a better one.
And not yet. There are a couple of practical interventions. Oh, normally, no, in a lot of countries, there's a Foreign Service Institute that is totally independent of government that says, this is the direction. We are going to train solid, professional technocrats to contribute to driving and designing foreign policy. The second is that we have agreed what Ghana's national interests are. And therefore, whether you are blue party, green party, yellow party, white party, Oba, Ghana is the fulcrum around which you drive your foreign and defense policy. We haven't got there yet. If you look at the two manifestos, they are all running all over the place. Well, and Sema AC outside Ghana on the global stage, it doesn't seem to concern us now until we have power. But the global stage and its challenges are not waiting for Ghana to finish.
Exactly.
The challenges are transforming, transmutating, and interlocking in different ways. So, we need people who are looking at this thing on a daily basis and calculating what the options are and what the variables are going to be. But and the be match, the be the same commodity. But see apart me noting idea. Hey, so doom so crab it will be looked at or presented within the lens of the elections.
Okay.
Yes,
Mami Musa we say you were any I have one MP or studio ha me no wi me bisa. Do we have any established foreign policy framework it may prioritize Ghana your core interests including economic growth, regional stability and security in general? Do we have such a framework as a country? Do we have such policy framework?
Well, we have a foreign service institute that should contribute to training and developing this framework. And then we have, is it a foreign policy center or something that brings people to look at different aspects of Ghana's policy. But Captain Unim and Amisu Minim said there's a huge chasm between the technocratic knowledge-based presentation of ideas and then the adaptation, understanding, and the usage of that knowledge in designing policy. So evidence-based policy making when it comes to foreign policy is very shoddy and very shabbily done. Although we have experienced diplomats who have worked for years, the politics always trumps the technocratic, bureaucratic interventions. Well, so just like in all other sections, it is politics that drives what the technocrats and the bureaucrats must do. I mean, politics will always drive a little bit of it. But here, it's more politics than bureaucratic, technocratic interventions.
Doc, Mamenda was say, Yakoya Nimi, Jumedi Shasi and Rape, Yahian Chechimubia and Nimdia Muda, Yabeba was say, and you don't have a bon.
I'm always available, and thank you very much.
You are most welcome. Dr. Emmanuel Kwesi Aning. Ubenya na wia na wabrem. Benya na wia na wabrem pa. Ana otese ya nene bon komo no.
Onua 95.1 FM. Yeah, Junemo.